The People's Market is pleased to be associated with the movement that empowers.
A very warm welcome to my community, the movement that empowers.
People want to know our happy soul, why Barbados come from, why Barbados come from.
Yes, we continue to look at that movement that has built communities and elevated our people from the underprivileged class to property ownership, business ownership, and of course, home ownership. The recurring word in this mini-series will be movement. Movement as in a procession, the idea that people are gradually progressing and by extension empowering their children and giving them that head start which was not available to them. In our last episode, we were introduced to a movement of key individuals, including national hero Sir Grantley Adams and Winter Crawford. That movement, through its work in Parliament, was responsible for the legislative framework on which the modern credit union movement in Barbados was built. Exactly what did those pieces of legislation bring forth?
Legislation to protect it, to advance credit unions. So you have cooperative legislation in the 1940s. You also have the registrar of cooperatives being established, okay, to have oversight over credit unions because you have monies being paid into credit unions and you need that financial oversight.
From the beginning, the registrar was the person who had the training, both in promotional activities and also in bookkeeping and so forth. And the registrar was really stretched out. You know, his time and his time of his staff was really taken up, especially at night, with the promotion of credit unions and other cooperative societies. You find that most of the societies did not have offices from which to work. All the people were volunteers, really. All the officers, president, secretary, treasurer, all of them were volunteers doing their daily jobs. So they only had time at night to be involved in the cooperative activity. So the registrar had to schedule his time to be able to meet with people at night. And these meetings often were held, let's say, in church buildings, with church groups. Sometimes some private firms had office spaces. When they sponsored the credit union or co-op, they would have office space that they would allow their members to meet in that office space. And very often, they would name that building as their, because it was required, as their registered office. You know, as their registered office. So you might pass someplace and you see a building with a sign on the wall, registered office of such and co-op. See, but you would only find them there at night. And what the co-ops used to do, they would have meetings, let's say one night a week. That would be the co-op meeting night, when the members would get together and get their loans, pay their dues, and so on and so forth. You know, and also the registrar would be there on those occasions to speak to the folks about cooperative activity, how they could get involved, and the things they should do. So the registrar really had a very hard job. You know, it was a day and night job. You know, a day and night job, getting involved in co-op activity. But there came a time when I would say that it became a bit too much, you see. And even so, the credit unions were getting office space at that time and were employing people. So you find that some of the activity was able to be carried on during the day. It was shifted from night to day. In some credit unions, not in all, because there were still some small credit unions where the registrar would still go at night to make sure that their books were kept in order and so forth.
So those are the important points to note about the establishment or the background to the establishment of the credit union movement in Barbados. Now, of course, the question has to be asked, who are the movers and shakers of this credit union movement? were the ones responsible for taking the movement forward into the 1950s, 1960s, etc. I want to highlight just a few, just 3 or 4 members who were significant in taking the movement forward. From the early beginnings in 1947 with the establishment of the Shamrock Credit Union, the Perseverance Credit Union, Endeavor Credit Union, then members of churches got involved. So, for example, you have today a credit union at Bethel Methodist Church, one at James Street Methodist Church, one at the Church of the Nazarene, Barbados District. And so there are many credit unions spread over the nation. But I want to zero in on some of those early pioneers. And 2 pioneers that come to mind were John Ewart and John Lovell. John Ewart and John Lovell. And Ewart is best remembered as the parliamentary representative for the parish of St. John, or one of the parliamentary representatives, along with Errol Walter Barrow. But Ewart was responsible for a credit union called the Endeavor Credit Union in 1961. He was president of Endeavor in 1961. But before that, he was also president of the Perseverance Credit Union in 1954. So here is a politician, but a businessman who leads that credit union movement. So he's at the helm of 2 credit unions at 2 different times. And there's another John that we ought to consider. And this is John Lovell, who was responsible for the formation of the Barbados Teachers Cooperative Credit Union movement. So that building bears the name the John Lovell Building simply because of the role of John Lovell in establishing that credit union among teachers. And we made the point earlier that we have credit unions revolving around certain groups, and the teachers and churches, religious persons were important in consolidating these movements. So John Lovell was responsible for that, that movement of the teachers.
We had 2 types of credit unions, generally speaking: industrial credit union and community credit union. Like St. Mark's, you had to live within a certain area to be a member of St. Mark's Credit Union. The boundaries were there. From there to there, if you don't live there, you can't join that credit union. It's different now. You can live anywhere. People in the new credit union, I'm not criticizing it, it might be better than what we had. But people in the new credit union, I know a fella, he come from overseas, he live there about here, but he belonged to the credit union movement. He come, he heard that you're getting dividends at a higher rate than the bank, and he take his money and he put it there. He had industrial type credit union where people of the same ilk, like churches, like St. Stephen Credit Union and Shamrock Credit Union, those are associated with churches, and Elephant Credit Union, who was a very powerful credit union. They were associated with not an Anglican church, but a Methodist church and the village. That was a kind of dual thing, because that was also associated with Buckley Factory, people that work at Buckley Factory, Kendall. And I tell you something, I had to laugh at it, but them fellas seem to, when they belong to the credit union from down there, it seemed to last very long, live long. You ever heard about a fellow named Sisnet that lived up? He was a very active member of Ellington Credit Union.
James Emmanuel Sisnet.
Died at 114 years.
Yes.
I visited him at 100 when he was 100 and saw him painting his veranda. That is true. Fitz Brayton, who was just 100, you know him?
Yes.
He's a buddy of mine. Whenever you see me any place, Brother Brown, that's the only name he got. And we talk every now and again. And I don't know if you remember that he drove his car up to the Governor General. He said, "Want to come for me again?" He's 101 now and he's still going to church and reading lessons and giving people a drop. Those people live long in that area. That was a brave credit union, a very good credit union. That's what it is.
Later on, we have Keith Bourne. Keith Bourne, who's associated with the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited.
In 1968, Brother Harcourt Lewis, who later became Sir Harcourt Lewis, was elected president, and in his inaugural speech, there's two things that he said he wanted to accomplish. He wanted the union to form a bank club and also to form a savings society. Now, a savings society is a precursor to the credit union. So between 1968 and 1970, the savings society was in operation. But in 1970, he thought that had received enough savings that the organization should be elevated to a credit union. So he wrote then the registrar cooperative and said that he wanted the credit union to be formed in the best interests of the public servants. As far as I recall, he was informed by the then registrar that there was already a credit union in operation. I think it was Teachers Credit Union at the time. And the registrar suggested that instead of forming a new credit union, he should hold discussions with the management of Teachers Credit Union. This was done, at first to the reluctance of the directors of Workers Credit Union. But we decided, okay, no, let's form our own credit union. So the credit union was registered on the 6th of May, 1970. Having started as a savings society, and then when they have reached a certain point in the savings, they thought it was best then to be elevated to a credit union, and this was done in 6th. Yes, so that's how the credit union started. We started in the trade union building at the time, which was in Basque House, not too far from here, at the corner of the Port Workers Credit Union started. And then the union went up to Dalkeith, and we went up there. Then we found that there was too crowded. We were downstairs, occupying a party building. We outgrew that a short period of time. We went upstairs, quickly outgrew that again. And then we decided that we got to move on, and we bought this property for $1 million.
As a matter of fact, I think the center is called the Keith Bourne Center. Keith Bourne played an integral role, but not the only person in the union, but he stands out as a driving force in the development of that union to get people involved, to spread the word of the union, and even to get the schools to think about a curriculum in trade union matters. It was Keith Bourne who rightly deserves that honor in leading, providing leadership and organization in the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Union Limited.
They want to know how safe was the money, see? How soon they get a loan, how safe was the money? Of course, it started out slowly. That was 1970. So after a year or two, the credit union went in a period of dormancy. People slow down on the savings. They desire to borrow. By 1975, the early pioneers were concerned about what's happening in the credit union. And Ralph Boyce, who was working on studying in Jamaica, came back here. And Dennis Clark, who was the General Secretary of the National Union of Workers, invited him to a discussion to discuss the resuscitation of the credit union. And he willingly agreed. So in 1975, they had a conference held, and it was agreed that everybody would put their hands to the plow and resuscitate the credit union.
We were able to get payroll deductions. So you just save as much as you want. They say $25 every month. You forget about it. Just have $25 deducted from your salary. You forget about it. And as time went on, in fact, that happened to me. I had $25 deducted, and for years after that, you know, I forgot all about it. Till one day I look at my passbook. If I had my passbook updated, only to realize that I had a tidy sum of money. So I would advise any person, you know, do not spend more than you work for. And one of the best ways of doing that is to have the credit union get a payroll deduction for you and save your money every month. And a very easy, but for weekly paid workers, it will be every week. And that's a painless way of saving over from time to time.
I was in Jamaica. I went up to University in Jamaica. So it's important for us sometimes to get out and see what was happening. So I learned about the credit union movement in Jamaica. In fact, I was a member there, and I learned the basics there. That, I mean, you go in to get some money, and you try to make sure you got the best terms that you could have got for the political thing. So sometimes you rented a house rather than, you know. But coming back then from Jamaica, I started to begin to understand about the credit union in Barbados, because at first you realize that it took a little time to readjust to the fact that you couldn't just automatically come in and become somebody big. You had to take your time and work your way up, more or less. But then we started to do some good work.
Action had to be taken in order to maintain the momentum. Now, in order to get the credit union expanded and growing, certain things had to be put in place. And I remember that the then board suggested that they would appoint a committee of, committee of management, which would spearhead the recruitment of new members of the credit union. I was involved in our committee. So what we did, we decided that we would visit all the government departments. So I went to Cabinet Office and got a list of all the departments. Having got a list of all the departments, we decided that we would visit these departments on a regular and consistent basis. So we would write, call, but we make arrangements to visit these departments one after one, and we go there between 3 and 4. And surprisingly, most of the head departments agree. So we set up these meetings. I would go wherever to go, and other committee members would go from time to time and tell them that we need them to join the credit union. How beneficial it would be to them, because at that time they had difficulty in getting loans. So we spoke for half hour, and then they had an opportunity to ask questions for the other half hour. During the meeting, what we did was to ask the group of persons who attend the meeting to nominate 2 persons who would be, or knowledge, in terms, we call it today sharpshooters, what we call a departmental rep. having agreed that they would serve as Department of Reps, we invited them to a meeting held in our training room. And we went through the origin, what is the credit union, what purpose it serves, the bylaws, the act, the structure of the credit union. Starting, if we start from the bottom, we have the membership from the credit union, and then the credit union will become then a member of the league, various cooperative credit union league limited.
The Credit Union League is the umbrella body that represents credit union. You should know that the credit unions are regulated by the Financial Service Commission, but the credit unions are still regulated by the cooperative department.
As you know, there's the primary organization. The primary organization is the credit unions like City of Bridgetown Public Workers, Barbados Workers Union, and the league will be what we call in the movement the secondary organization, the administrator of the cooperative movement, cooperative credit union movement in Barbados. The league at that point, was a very strong organization with regard to activities. There was a lot more training happening. Often there was courses on Saturdays, etc., so that there was a lot more energy in the movement, and that created a lot of controversy, but it also created a lot of education, because obviously if you want to work through controversy, you need to understand the issues. The league journey has not always been the easiest one, yeah. The league has always played a very powerful role in pulling together not only the institutions, but the thoughts, the energies of the institutions. So the league role cannot be diminished, either then or no. And looking at some of the activities over time, I would say it's a secondary organization. It's not a credit union, so to speak, but all credit unions are members of the league and support the league via annual or quarterly subscriptions. So out of that, the league will get its finances. With regard to the management of the process, the bigger credit unions are able to, say, appoint maybe an automatic person to the league board. The smaller credit unions may have to, say, lobby to put a person on the league board.
If you want to form a credit union, you can contact the league, and the league can give you the necessary guidance. But during the growth of credit unions, one of the main things the credit union, the league, I would say, is a question of training for directors. So, you go to AGM, you have an interest to give us some of your time for the development of your credit union. But you know very little. So the league arranges courses for the board directors, the credit committee, the supervisory committee, and ordinary members. Now, and every year, credit unions have the annual general meeting, and the proportion of the surplus is paid over to the league to help the development of training. And if there was anything nationally that the government was doing to adversely affect the credit union, the league would be there to represent the credit union. So both locally and then have international conferences and so on, they can attend and they can share our ideas, and we can learn from other credit unions in the Caribbean what they're doing and what challenges they're meeting.
The league had a very strong, vibrant credit union operators program, I think, in the early 90s. A lot of people passed through that program, and it was a really solid program. Really solid program, introducing persons to all aspects of the credit union and the accounting management, introducing persons to corporate governance and so forth. So the league was pretty strong. As I noted too, and I think it would have been at one point too, in looking to strengthen the movement, the league had worked with, I think it was with the International through the World Council, the league, I think, would have got a sponsorship of an institutional strengthening program that I think would have been sponsored. Probably some of the fund, I think, came through the World Bank, where they had some formal courses here. And that, I can't remember, I think that would have been around 2011, probably is when, like 2009 to 2011. And this is an area where the societies that were effective now introducing the whole question of online learning. The league had joined up with the University of Dalhousie, right? And they were actually structuring courses. I can remember there were actually 8 modules taking right through credit management. Credit management was one in particular. Corporate governance was big. I think corporate governance will have done a couple modules. You will have done corporate law, strategic management, etc. All those things that was seen as relevant for persons wanting to make a serious impact on the movement. You know, and again, not from a practical standpoint. As I said, there were 8 modules, but each module was separate in the sense that you could come and do credit management and benefit from the credit management. You could do credit management, you could do corporate governance 1 or 2 and benefit fully from those courses. But even though it was suggested or you were encouraged to do it, it was all the 8 modules. If you, for some reason, were not able to cover the 8 modules, you still benefited from, even if you did 1, there was great benefit. And I can remember, it just shows how things used to happen in the movement. One Saturday, I was just told, okay, the league, this institutional program happening. And I went, I can remember, it was at, you know, we have teachers credit union at the bottom of Cullinan Rock. And I can remember they used to do a lot of training from that location. And I went there, I said, because I thought it was a 1-day course. So I actually went there to do a 1-day course and ended up getting caught up in 8 modules that took, I think it must be probably close to a year. But even though, I had no regrets.
Underscoring the importance of education and ensuring that our people were well trained to be effective members and leaders of this movement that continues to build Barbadian communities. This has been My Community, the movement that empowers.
The People's Market is pleased to be associated with the movement that empowers.